We all believed we truly knew Malcolm-Jamal Warner, the cherished star of The Cosby Show who grew up right before our eyes. But behind the curtain, a disturbing silence had been slowly building. What actually happened to Malcolm once the fame began to fade? Why did he disappear so suddenly from the public eye? And why is the truth only emerging now? Through hushed conversations, sealed records, and private probes, what we've discovered changes the narrative entirely. Stick with us because this mystery has finally unraveled. And believe me, it's far from good. Malcolm-Jamal Warner wasn't just any child star. For years, he was America's son. He brought life to our screens as Theo Huxtable on The Cosby Show, representing wit, innocence, and charm. But once the camera stopped rolling, something peculiar began happening. Malcolm's public appearances became infrequent. His interviews turned cryptic. He started distancing himself from Hollywood, from fame, and even from those closest to him. Fans began to wonder, where is Malcolm now? Why does he continue to avoid the spotlight? And soon the rumors started swirling. Talk of health challenges, failed relationships, a sabotaged career, and even whispers of a deep-seated betrayal from within the industry began to surface. What's more chilling is that sources close to the actor suggest he's been trying in subtle ways to signal that something much darker is going on. And at last, after years of silence, the pieces of the puzzle are coming together. In this video, we're diving into the full story, the unexpected retreat from fame, the rumored rift with Bill Cosby, the hidden personal battles Malcolm endured for years, and the jaw-dropping conclusion that might just explain why he turned his back on Hollywood for good. What's been uncovered is shocking, and this isn't just another celebrity downfall. And believe me, this is where things take a turn. Back in the 1980s, The Cosby Show was more than just a television sitcom. It was a cultural movement. It transformed how Black families were depicted on TV and grew into a global sensation. At the heart of this revolutionary show was a young Malcolm-Jamal Warner, cast at only 14 to play Theo Huxtable, the lovable, mildly defiant son of Cliff and Claire. For nearly 10 years, Malcolm lived in the spotlight week after week. He was admired by millions and applauded for his authentic acting, quick comedic instincts, and relatable charm. But while audiences saw a confident teen living the dream, behind the scenes, the pressure was escalating. What many tend to overlook is that child fame carries a heavy cost. Malcolm wasn't just performing, he was coming of age under an unforgiving spotlight. Every slip-up, every shift in behavior, every misjudgment was examined, not only by the media but also by the industry and even his fellow cast members. People who later worked on The Cosby Show described the atmosphere as warm, but demanding, with expectations that were nearly impossible for a teenager to meet. Then came the turning point when the show concluded in 1992. Something in Malcolm changed. He didn't chase blockbuster films like some of his peers. He stayed away from tabloid scandals and headline-chasing stunts. Instead, he stepped back, gravitating toward low-key roles, indie projects, spoken-word events, and jazz performances. While that might appear to be a calm and intentional shift, insiders suggest it was actually the onset of a quiet inner struggle, one that would shape his life from then on. A former industry contact once shared in an unreleased interview that Malcolm wasn't just avoiding being typecast, it was deeper than that. It came down to trust. He had seen too much. He knew far more than most. He wasn't simply walking away from fame, he was running from something. Was it the crushing weight of being the ideal Black role model? Was it unresolved wounds from his childhood in the spotlight? Or was it something even darker, a betrayal? Or a cover-up that forced him into hiding? Whatever it was, the confident image of the teen star began to fracture, and Malcolm's path was about to take a far more painful direction. For years, Bill Cosby was hailed as America's dad, but to Malcolm-Jamal Warner he meant more than just a co-star. Cosby had been a mentor, a guide, and in many respects, a second father figure. Their connection extended well beyond what was written into The Cosby Show. Cosby was said to have advised Malcolm on everything, from managing money to dealing with women, from handling fame to surviving the brutal grind of Hollywood. But as the 2000s moved forward, quiet whispers became loud headlines, and those headlines turned into high-profile court cases. Bill Cosby, the man whose image was built on family values and moral leadership, was being accused of unimaginable acts. And the world watched in disbelief as dozens of women stepped forward, sharing stories of manipulation, violation, and betrayal. For Malcolm, this wasn't just a media storm, it was a heartbreak on a soul-deep level. Think about the emotional whiplash. The same man who had mentored you, shaped your values, and encouraged your career now revealed to be someone entirely different. Malcolm kept quiet for quite some time as the allegations flooded in. But when he finally did speak, his words were cautious, careful, and heavy with sorrow. In one rare public comment, Malcolm shared, "He's one of my mentors, and he's been very influential in my life." He added, "As someone who has been very much an advocate for women, it's complicated. Complicated." That single word carried an immense emotional burden. Grief, confusion, betrayal, shame, and anger all bundled together. Privately, those close to Malcolm described him as tormented. Some insiders claimed he withdrew into himself during that time, cutting ties even with people who had long been part of his inner circle. Reports say he declined major interviews, kept his distance from old castmates, and steered clear of any Cosby-related conversations altogether. One former television executive who tried to bring Malcolm back to a family sitcom recalled, "He wasn't ready. He said the industry felt toxic. He said he didn't trust anyone anymore." Then there were the rumors, unverified but persistent, suggesting Malcolm might have known more than he admitted, that he may have overheard things, sensed things, and that part of his long silence came from a kind of survivor's guilt. Not because he was involved, but because he had stood by someone for so long without truly knowing who they were. The emotional weight of that realization was overwhelming. Those who encountered Malcolm during this period saw a man in deep pain, not just because of Cosby's public disgrace, but because a man he had once loved and defended had betrayed that love. It wasn't only Cosby's public persona that had collapsed, it was Malcolm's foundation. His trust, his moral compass, his entire worldview had been shaken. He had once believed that Hollywood could stand for something good. But this betrayal marked a new turning point in his life, one that remained invisible to the public for years. And while the world fixated on Malcolm's silence regarding the Cosby controversy, very few realized that Malcolm-Jamal Warner was simultaneously fighting a very different and very personal battle. This was something he never intended to make public. Behind the scenes, Malcolm was reportedly battling a serious and debilitating health condition. Though he had always been known for leading a fit and health-conscious lifestyle, often advocating for yoga, clean eating, and mindfulness, those close to him began to notice something wasn't right. As early as 22-1. He began canceling scheduled appearances. He turned down acting opportunities that required long-distance travel. His presence on the Hollywood social circuits started to fade, and even his typically active social media accounts went noticeably quiet. At first, many assumed it was just pandemic-related fatigue or maybe a personal retreat after decades in the spotlight. But according to sources close to him, the truth was far more concerning. Insiders from within his circle revealed that Malcolm had been diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disease that began impacting his energy levels, nervous system, and internal organs. He chose not to make this diagnosis public, reportedly telling a close friend, "The moment the world knows, it becomes real in a way you can't control." This deeply personal struggle was something Malcolm largely bore in silence. Friends described him as someone trying to stay strong for everyone else, especially for his daughter, born in 2017. Even as his health declined, he reportedly continued showing up for school events, playing guitar with her, and keeping their daily routines intact, even on days when his body was crying out for rest. One longtime friend and fellow actor said, "He never wanted sympathy. He just wanted peace." He would show up to gatherings, completely worn down yet still smiling through it. Only later would people learn that after those hangouts, he would go home and collapse for days. Initially, this chronic illness didn't seem to pose a direct threat to his life. But by 2023, it had taken a turn for the worse. Reports say Malcolm was in and out of treatment centers, relying on a blend of advanced medical care and holistic therapies to keep the symptoms at bay. Still, he refused to let the illness define who he was. He continued to mentor young actors behind the scenes. He recorded spoken word poetry from his home studio, pouring his heart into the microphone, sometimes through tears. He even kept a journal which, according to one source, might eventually be published after his death. a deeply personal account of everything he wished he could have said out loud. Regrets, victories, fears, moments of awakening. And perhaps the most heartbreaking part, most of his fans never even knew he was ill. Malcolm, ever the private man, never made an announcement. No GoFundMe campaign, no dramatic headlines. Not even a farewell post on Instagram. He kept it, all hidden from the world. So when news broke of his sudden death from complications related to the illness, his fans and followers were completely blindsided. To them, Malcolm-Jamal Warner was still that vibrant, youthful, confident man they had grown up watching, but behind that signature smile was someone, quietly fading emotionally and physically, holding on for as long as he could for the people he loved most. And among those people was someone who had once played his sister on screen, but had become something much more. In the next chapter, we'll explore that powerful bond and the emotional tribute that sent shockwaves through Hollywood and fans of The Cosby Show. Theo and Vanessa Huxtable may have just been siblings on television, playfully arguing, teasing, and sharing that classic love-hate sibling dynamic familiar to many TV families. But what most viewers never fully realized was that off-screen, Malcolm-Jamal Warner and Tempestt Bledsoe shared a connection that was far deeper, more lasting, and heartbreakingly rarer, especially in the world of Hollywood. Their relationship began in the mid-1980s on the set of The Cosby Show. As teens suddenly thrust into massive stardom, both Malcolm and Tempestt quickly realized how isolating fame could be. And the one thing that made it bearable was each other. They leaned on one another during awkward red carpet appearances, behind-the-scenes negotiations, and the overwhelming pressure of maintaining the public's love for their fictional family. But their bond didn't end when the series did. Over the years, they remained one another's go-to support system. While Malcolm delved into spoken word, music, and directing, Tempestt pursued voice acting and quietly lived her life out of the spotlight. Through it all, their connection only deepened, growing from a sibling-like bond into something far more personal and enduring, a deeply emotional connection built on unwavering support. By the early 2000s, rumors began circulating about a possible romantic relationship between them. They were frequently spotted together at charity galas, art show openings, and even enjoying quiet getaways. Yet neither of them ever confirmed anything publicly. Why? Because chasing Hollywood headlines was never their priority. They were guarding something sacred. One insider close to the two described it this way: they weren't your typical celebrity couple. There were no social media declarations or red carpet PDA. What they shared was quiet, soulful, and profoundly rooted. Tempestt was Malcolm's grounding force, and when his health started to fail, she became his entire world. As Malcolm's condition worsened, Tempestt reportedly stepped in as both his primary caregiver and his emotional pillar. She moved into his home for long stretches, cooked his meals, and helped coordinate his treatments. And perhaps most heartbreaking of all, she was the one by his side, holding his hand. When doctors delivered the devastating prognosis in late 2024, the illness had advanced beyond any chance of recovery. Friends remember seeing them on the porch during late nights, wrapped in blankets, barely speaking, simply being present together. That was the kind of love they shared. In his final months, Malcolm often recorded video messages for his daughter, and many of those clips included Tempestt in the background, smiling quietly, saying nothing but always there. In one heartbreaking voicemail leaked just days after his passing, Malcolm reportedly said, "You were the calm to my chaos. You made every breath worth it when the world forgot me. You didn't." After his death, Tempestt Bledsoe vanished from public view. No formal statement, no social media posts, just silence. But within that silence lived a woman broken by loss, grieving not only a former co-star or rumored partner, but the man who had been her spiritual mirror for more than 30 years. As one close friend put it, Tempestt isn't just mourning Malcolm's death. She's mourning a life built quietly in shadows, whispered prayers, and private promises no one else ever saw. She gave her whole soul to that man. Now, fans are demanding clarity, tribute specials, ceremonies to honor his legacy, and recognition for both the public icon and the deeply private man. But will Tempestt ever break her silence and share the truth about the life they kept hidden? Or will she continue to protect what the world was never meant to see? In the next segment, we dive into Hollywood's emotional reaction, how The Cosby Show cast responded, and why this loss cuts deeper than most celebrity deaths, and that brings us here. What once seemed like a quiet chapter in Malcolm-Jamal Warner's life has slowly unraveled into a series of revelations no one expected. From the chilling whispers of private health battles and long absences from the spotlight, to the complex speculation around his personal and career decisions, we've peeled back the curtain on a man the world long viewed as calm, steady, and in control. But underneath that composed exterior, a storm had been brewing for years. So why does this story matter? Because Malcolm-Jamal Warner wasn't just a talented actor. He represented a generation's childhood. He stood for Black excellence. He symbolized perseverance in an industry that often chews people up. And when someone like that suddenly disappears, it makes us pause and ask the hard questions. How well do we truly know the people we look up to? What happens behind closed doors in the entertainment world that never makes the headlines? Ultimately, Malcolm's story is a mirror reflecting the price of fame, the weight of quiet suffering, and the hidden battles behind red carpet smiles. Now it's your turn. What do you think really happened to Malcolm-Jamal Warner? Was it a personal retreat, a deliberate silence, or something much deeper? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one. If this video gave you a different perspective, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We've got more deep dive exposes and untold stories headed your way, and trust me, you don't want to miss them. Hit that bell icon so you're first in line when the next truth drops, because sometimes silence says more than words, and it's time we start paying attention.